VikesNow, I am Dustin Baker. This will be the final transmission I have with you guys and gals with the old Vikings. Monday is legal tampering, the beginning of it, and the Vikings should get at least a couple new players, and then throughout the week, more, and thereafter, a second wave of free agency. That would be, March 18th through the 25th or so. And then all the while, the Vikings will be adding a lot of their existing free agents. By my count, they have, is it 24 dudes to make a decision on, yay or nay, coming back for 2024. So it will be an eventful week, and even more than that with the rest of March, and then of course the draft in April. So what I want to do is get on record to be accountable with my official Vikings free agent predictions. Hopefully you get to watch these before the pandemonium begins Monday. The first 5 are general predictions, and then I get sexy at the end with bold predictions. They're kind of designed to be out there. Maybe won't happen, but I want you thinking about them nevertheless. So these are represented in no particular order. These are my free agency predictions for the Vikings. The first one, the almighty offseason domino, is that Kirk Cousins departs. Now, if you're watching this on Sunday afternoon, you might have a verdict on Cousins Sunday night. According to The Athletic, Diana Rossini, who does wonderful work, she claims that Cousins is going to let the Vikings know tonight if he decides to explore free agency. And while we won't know which team he'd join, I'm guessing if he tells the Vikings tonight that I'm going to test free agency, that means he's going to find a deal that's larger, probably with the Falcons. I've said for, about 6 weeks that I believe the Vikings said, here is your offer, take it or leave it, and he's had that long to think about it, and then tonight, my prediction is he'll let the Vikings know that he is going to explore elsewhere, and that team will probably pay him more. So I flip-flopped a lot. You might remember that in January, trying to decide my prediction on what would happen with Cousins. At the beginning of February, I landed on Cousins will depart. It makes more sense that this general manager and head coach would want to attach their job security to a rookie quarterback rather than a 36-year-old Kirk Cousins who's coming off of a nasty injury. So, alas, my prediction is, once and for all, the Cousins leaves the Vikings after 6 faithful seasons, probably joins the Falcons, thus thrusting Minnesota into the draft to draft his replacement. So that's number 1. Cousins gone. That's what I predict. Number 2, if I'm going to get any of these wrong, it's going to be this number 2. I believe Danielle Hunter will stay. Here's the deal. The Vikings were 1-4 at their lowest point last October, and you might remember, are they going to have a fire sale? That was the big talk, and then they ended up 4-4, and then Cousins got hurt. But if they didn't want Hunter back for the long haul, even though they'll probably get a 3rd-round pick as a compensatory pick if he leaves, I'm guessing they would have traded him last October, and, rolled with DJ Wanham and Marcus Davenport, who wasn't hurt at that moment. So since they didn't trade Hunter, and he said several times that it's his goal to stay with the Vikings for life, I just think this one ultimately ends up in Hunter staying. I say about 3 years, $66 million, although these deals that we're seeing in free agency with Chris Jones last night and the dude from the Ravens, the defensive tackle, maybe that $22 million per year for Hunter actually means 25. It really feels like 2016 NBA free agency with the salary cap going up. It seems like everybody's going to get larger deals than we forecasted. But I'm willing to be wrong here because it's weird that the Vikings would let Hunter get this far. They could have re-signed him, just like Cousins, at any time in the last 2 months. So he's going to see honest-to-goodness free agency, but I ultimately think he'll stay with the Vikings. A, because he wants to be here. B, because they didn't trade him. And C, they don't have any starting edge rushers on the books. So I think it was the plan all along to get Hunter back. So I'm going to plant my flag here. Cousins gone, Hunter back. Number 3, kind of a no-brainer, but I want to make sure it's out there. Defensive starters will be prioritized. I think between 2 and 4 new starters will join the Vikings, hopefully this week. You probably won't get starters during the second wave of free agency. And I'm talking an edge rusher. I keep coming back to Leonard Floyd because he was on the Rams and Kevin O'Connell in 2021 when they won that Super Bowl. He won't utterly break the bank. I think he makes sense. Otherwise, you can get away with, if you bring Hunter back, getting somebody like Jadeveon Clowney. But I think new starters, defensive tackle, maybe Leonard Williams, something like that. I'm going to actually double up on him shortly. And then an edge. They're going to need an edge no matter what, unless they plan to re-up with Cousins and then use the 11th pick on Dallas Turner or Jared Verse. They need an edge rusher no matter what happens with Hunter. So I say multiple new defensive starters, probably between 2 and 4. Thankfully, the purple team has $37 million right now to spend on free agents. And last year, heading into March, they had negative $24 million. So we're looking at like a $61 million turnaround. So that's the perk of getting rid of guys last offseason like Adam Thielen, Dalvin Cook, Eric Kendricks, all those dudes that it was painstaking to say goodbye. Well, this is where you are reaping what you sow in a good way, where you have extra cap space. So defensive starters are prioritized. I also think this is number 4, that at least 1 or 2 Miami Dolphins players from the Brian Flores era will join this team. Now, this is, where did I get this? Well, there's a bunch of guys from the Flores era Dolphins that will hit the open market. Jerome Baker, off-ball linebacker. Raekwon Davis, defensive tackle, who's kind of meh. Actually seems like the kind of guy that the Vikings would sign at defensive tackle, like decent, but not great. Xavier Howard, cornerback, that'd be pretty sweet, even though he's past his prime. It'd be a good hedge as Andrew Booth, Caleb Evans, Mekhi Blackman develop. Emmanuel Agba, he's an edge. He's also not great, but he's a guy. Andrew Van Ginkel is probably one of the more realistic ones, and I will, put my name on him for a prediction. And then Christian Wilkins. One of my bold predictions before yesterday was Christian Wilkins. They'd find a way to sign him. But then I saw that Chris Jones deal, him getting $32 million per year or whatever it was. And that means that Wilkins is going to probably get 28 or 29. He hasn't even been in a Pro Bowl or All-Pro, and he's going to get that type of contract. So I pumped the brakes on Wilkins to Vikings. But out of those men, Baker, Davis, Howard, Ogba, Van Ginkel, and Wilkins, I think probably 1, maybe 2 of those ex-Dolphins with ties to Brian Flores will join the 2024 Vikings. And I say that because the coach and player ties in sports, in the NFL in particular, really mean a lot. Whenever I do an article about, hey, where is Alexander Mattison going to end up? Or any Viking that's about to leave or has left, you always look at the coaches that coached them, whether it was the running back coach, or offensive coordinator, assistant to something, or a former general manager like George Payton, and you start to get the ties that way. You can also look at their hometown, see if there's an angle there. But those ties between players and coaches are really palpable, so don't rule those out between those free agent Dolphins and Brian Flores. And then my final ordinary prediction before we get to the bold ones is a new kicker. Greg Joseph had a lot of cool moments, clutch moments, ice water in his veins, where you'd be tempted to say, you know what, let's re-up with Joseph. Well, that's what they did last year. And in back-to-back seasons, that guy has been a bottom 6 kicker per field goal percentage. And I just don't think they're going to sign on with him again. Because the ultimate goal, I know as Vikings fans we're jaded and cynical and pessimistic about kickers, rightfully so. And so, if you have a guy that can hit game winners, you should probably keep him. Well, the deal is you should try to shoot for the stars and get a guy who can do everything, which is make the regular field goals, hit extra points consistently, and then, by the way, hit game winners. And if you're going to miss them every once in a while, well, let's make sure he hits 9 out of 10 game winners from whatever the distance. And I think that's the philosophy should be. There's a plenty of kickers in this draft, and the Vikings could either, spend one of their multiple late rounders on that or wait till UDFA. It's kind of what they usually do, and get another one. There's also a lot of free agent kickers. Nick Folk came available yesterday. He's one of the most accurate in the game. I don't know how big his leg is, but the moral of the story here is I believe the Greg Joseph era is over. It should be over, and Kwesi Adofo-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell tried to find a kicker that can do everything. All right, those are the biggies. Kirk Cousins, gone, my prediction. Danielle Hunter, back. Defensive starters to the utmost prioritized. Several former Dolphins, at least one, will join the defense, and a new kicker. The bold predictions, the stuff that's outlandish for fun. I did have Christian Wilkins on this list, and I changed it. last night, once I realized that guy's going to cost close to $30 million, let's do Leonard Williams as the bold prediction in the middle of the Vikings defensive line. He won't get Chris Jones money, but he's one of those, performers that's habitually in the 70s per Pro Football Focus. And I think Leonard Williams could do well in this Brian Flores defense. So give me as a bold prediction, Leonard Williams to the Vikings. All right, next. Because, in tandem with my prediction that Cousins will depart, I think that the Vikings will, as a bold prediction, make a splashy trade into the top 3 of this April's draft this month. Because if you think about it, if Cousins is gone, you have Nick Mullins, who I like. Jaron Hall, verdicts to be determined on him. But I don't know if they're going to sign a bridge quarterback. I'll tell you right now, if they sign a bridge quarterback, I want Drew Lock. I don't want anybody else. It would be Drew Lock because I would actually get excited about seeing him play. I don't want some imbecile that I know is already a bust, like Zach Wilson or Sam Darnold, the athletic story that said the Vikings should sign both of them, really. May the best man win. No, if the Vikings are going to get a bridge quarterback, let's go Drew Lock. But I digress. If they get rid of Cousins, they put themselves in a spot where they enter the draft on April 25th, hoping the board falls their way. So I think, as a bold prediction, it's realistic to assume that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah trades into the top 3 in March, kind of like the Panthers did last year with the Bears, or in 2021 when the 49ers made the Trey Lance deal with the Dolphins. It'll probably take 2 firsts and 2 seconds, if not more. But whether it's the Commanders or Patriots, probably the Commanders, the way that things are trending, I think as a bold prediction that Kwesi Adofo-Mensah does the deal like on March 23rd or something like that, and boom, the Vikings have the 2nd or 3rd pick in the draft, which means they're guaranteed to get either Jaden Daniels, my guy Drake May, or if something goofy happens to Caleb Williams in the next, 6 weeks. And then finally, a depressing one, bold prediction. Because everything is predicated on this episode on Cousins leaving, I think Harrison Smith will leave the Vikings. The guy's 35. He probably has 1 season left. And the Vikings probably won't win a Super Bowl this year if they follow my plan to draft Drake May or Jaden Daniels or J.J. McCarthy. Therefore, I would think that Harrison Smith wants to win a Super Bowl. I think he will sign with the Dallas Cowboys, which is where Mike Zimmer works, the defensive coordinator hired last month. The Cowboys will convince themselves that they're Super Bowl contenders. We both know that they'll lose before the NFC Championship, but don't tell that to the Cowboys fans. And I think Harrison Smith, for 1 more career hurrah, joins Mike Zimmer in Dallas because at least the Cowboys will be in the mix, and he should be able to get some snaps. Jaron Kearse is a free agent. I don't know if he's going back to the Cowboys. Why not replace Kearse with Smith for one last run? All right, head to toe. Cousins gone. Hunter back, defensive starters all over the place through free agency, a few former Dolphins on defense signed by Brian Flores, a new kicker, Joseph out, bold predictions, Leonard Williams to the Vikings in March trade into the top 3, and sorrowfully, Harrison Smith leaves and joins the Cowboys. Now, I'm not sure of the schedule tomorrow and this week, depends on when news breaks. Probably chat with you guys Monday, certainly Tuesday and Wednesday. Wednesday, Thor Nystrom will be on once again. That's pretty sweet. Next Saturday, we'll have Optimistic Vikings fan from Vikings Twitter. He hasn't been on for about a year. We're going to chat with him about the first week of free agent dealings. But that's all we got, and we'll see you with at least some new tidbits about the new squad Monday or Tuesday. Skol, baby.